What if the most dangerous threat in Avengers Doomsday isn't Doctor Doom, but Doctor Strange himself? I started thinking about this the moment I revisited everything Strange has been through, and something just didn't sit right with me. This is a man who has already seen millions of possible futures. A man who once calmly accepted sacrificing lives because it was the only path forward. But what happens when someone like that keeps looking, keeps searching, and then starts seeing something far worse than defeat? I think Avengers Doomsday could introduce the darkest version of Strange we've ever imagined, a version who isn't controlled, possessed, or corrupted by magic, but one who has simply learned too much. And once I started connecting the dots, the idea became terrifyingly clear. I noticed that Strange has always been different from the other heroes. While others react to threats, he studies them. He calculates outcomes. Back in the Infinity War timeline, he didn't just guess the right path, he saw it. That alone tells me his mind has already handled knowledge far beyond what most humans could survive. But here's where it gets interesting. What if he never stopped looking? What if after Endgame, after the multiverse began breaking apart, Strange continued exploring timelines quietly, secretly, searching for a future where everything finally stabilizes, and instead of hope, he only found failure? I think this is where the real transformation begins. Imagine Strange witnessing not one, not 100, but thousands of timelines where the Avengers fail, universes collapsing, friends dying, reality itself tearing apart again and again. At some point, this isn't just knowledge anymore. It becomes trauma. And unlike physical wounds, this kind of damage doesn't heal. It builds. It reshapes how you think. So when people say Strange might turn evil, I don't think that's accurate at all. I think he becomes something much more complex, a man who believes that the traditional idea of being a hero simply doesn't work anymore. I started connecting this idea with Doctor Doom, and suddenly everything clicked into place. Doom isn't just a villain who wants power, he's someone who genuinely believes he can fix the world if he's in control. His methods are extreme, yes, but his intentions often come from a twisted sense of order. Now imagine Strange, after seeing endless chaos across timelines, finally encountering a version of reality where Doom actually succeeds, a timeline where the suffering stops. Not because heroes win, but because Doom imposes absolute control. That's not just shocking, that's persuasive. And this is where the theory becomes darker. I think this version of Strange doesn't join Doom out of loyalty or manipulation. He joins him because he believes it's the only solution left. After witnessing infinite failure, he stops trusting hope. He stops believing in the Avengers' ability to protect reality. Instead, he begins to see Doom as a necessary force, someone willing to do what no hero ever could, and in Strange's mind, that makes Doom not the villain, but the answer. What makes this even more tragic is how self-aware Strange would be in this situation. He knows what he's becoming. He understands how far he's drifting from the man he once was. But that's exactly what makes his decision so powerful. This isn't mind control. This isn't corruption. This is a conscious choice. A sacrifice of his own morality in exchange for what he believes is the survival of everything. And when I think about that, it actually makes him more dangerous than any villain we've seen so far. I also started thinking about how this version of Strange would behave differently. He wouldn't act like a typical antagonist. He wouldn't monologue or seek destruction for the sake of it. Instead, he would operate with cold precision, always one step ahead, always calculating outcomes. He would know the Avengers' strategies before they even act. He would anticipate their emotions, their decisions, their weaknesses, because he's already seen them play out across countless timelines. That kind of foresight makes him nearly unstoppable. But here's the detail that really changed everything for me. What if Strange doesn't just believe in Doom's plan? What if he helped shape it? If Strange has seen multiple versions of reality where Doom wins, he could guide him toward the exact path that leads to success. That means Doom's rise wouldn't just be his own doing, it would be the result of Strange's knowledge. And suddenly, this isn't just a villain story anymore. It's a partnership between two minds who believe they're saving the universe in the only way left. I think the emotional core of this story would come from the Avengers realizing what's happened. Imagine them facing Strange again, expecting their ally, their protector, only to discover that he's now standing beside Doom, not as a prisoner, not as a victim, but as a believer. That moment alone would completely shift the tone of the film. Because now they're not just fighting a villain, they're trying to save a friend who no longer wants to be saved. And I can already picture how devastating that confrontation would be. Characters like Spider-Man, who looked up to Strange, or Wong, who trusted him completely, would struggle to understand his decision. They would try to reach him, to remind him of who he used to be. But this version of Strange wouldn't be swayed by emotion. He's already seen those conversations play out. He knows how they end, and in his mind, holding on to those feelings only leads to more failure. I think this is where the story becomes truly heartbreaking. Because deep down, Strange might still care. He might still feel the weight of his choices, but he's gone too far to turn back. He's convinced himself that this path, no matter how dark, is the only one that leads to survival. And that internal conflict between the man he was and the one he's become would make him one of the most compelling characters in the entire saga. As I kept breaking this down, I realized something even more unsettling. If Strange has seen all possible futures, then he might already know how this story ends. He might know whether Doom wins, whether the Avengers succeed, or whether everything collapses again. And if he's still choosing to side with Doom despite that knowledge, it means one thing. The outcome he's aiming for must be something far beyond what we currently understand. That opens up an entirely new layer to the theory. What if Strange isn't just trying to win? What if he's trying to reshape reality itself, not just saving one timeline, but creating a new system where multiversal collapse can never happen again? In that context, Doom's rule wouldn't just be about control, it would be about stability. A permanent solution to a problem that has destroyed countless universes. And if that's the case, then Strange's actions, as extreme as they seem, start to feel almost logical. But logic doesn't make it right. And that's what makes this story so powerful. Because at its core, it's about a hero who has lost faith in the very idea of heroism. Someone who has seen too much, suffered too much, and ultimately decided that the old ways don't work anymore. And in doing so, he becomes something new, something darker, more dangerous, and far more unpredictable. When I bring all these clues together, the picture becomes clear. Avengers. Doomsday might not just be about stopping a villain, it could be about confronting a terrifying question. What happens when the smartest hero alive decides that saving the world requires becoming its greatest threat? And if that's the direction the story takes, then this version of Doctor Strange won't just be a twist. He'll be the emotional and philosophical center of the entire film. And honestly, that's what makes this theory so exciting, because it doesn't just raise the stakes physically, it challenges everything we think we know about heroes, villains, and the choices that define them. It forces us to ask whether the ends can ever truly justify the means, and whether someone like Strange, with all his knowledge and experience, might actually be right. I think that's the real mystery here. Not whether Strange turns dark, but whether his version of saving the universe is something we're even ready to accept. And if Avengers Doomsday leans into this idea, it could deliver one of the most complex and unforgettable stories we've ever seen. If you enjoyed breaking this down with me, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.